Okay, so in this video we're going to learn about how you can update and delete. Earlier we learned how you can create something like creating a table, creating a database, etc. And then we learned how you can read data like select everything from table and how you can filter, etc. So those were create and read. Now it's time to learn about update and delete. So let's start by updating something. So first let me take a look at the employees table in the shop database. So if I click it, you can see all of these records over here. Now we have 3 records and you can see already that these employee ID are duplicate. We should not have those. We'll just deal with them a little later. And then we have 3 people and one of them is website developer and 2 are managers and their salary, etc. So these are all the employees we have in our shop. So you can see we have duplicates over here. So obviously we have to update it. So for John Doe we have to update to employee 2, not employee 1, because employee 1 is Syed Basim. So let's write a query for updating stuff. So for updating stuff it's pretty easy. We have to write update and then the name of the table, that is employees. Now obviously we need to specify in which database employees table is there. So we could just use like use and then the name of the database, that is shop. So we are going to update the employees table and then we have to specify what all fields we have to change. So we have to change the employee ID field. So now it is employee 1, we need to change it to employee 2. So how could you do that? It's pretty simple. So update in the employees table and then you have to just type set and then the name of the field you have to change. So set employee ID is equal to and then what ID do you want? So employee 0002. So we want like this, right? So we have employee 00002. So we want to change employee ID to this one. So let's run this and let's see what happens. Okay, it looks like it's successful, and if I go and refresh the table you will see one problem, and let's see what the problem is. Yeah, you can see all of them got employee 2. Now why is it so? Because we told that we need to update the employee field to this one. We didn't say which record because now SQL doesn't know in which record it has to change to number 2, so it changes for all of them. So now all of them have employee 2. So we made a mistake over here. Actually what we wanted to do was to change it only for John Doe. So now all of them are the same now because all of the employee ID has been updated by this line, because we told that employee ID should now be this one. So to avoid this problem you can do conditioning also. So over here if you see, you can do condition like change to employee 3 like this. Now if I run this, obviously all of them will be employee 3. So change to employee 3 where the name is Linus. So you could do like that. So you can do like change. So update the employees table, set the employee ID field, and change the value to 3. I mean this whole thing, employee 0003. So now obviously it will update all of this to 3. You want only the name where is Linus. So you could do like where, if you remember the where clause, like earlier we learned about where, the keyword where, how you can filter data. Now also we are filtering data, but we are updating at the same time. So where the name is equal to Linus. So you could do like that. So let me just explain, let me go through once more what we are going to do now. So update the employees table and set the employee ID value to employee 3. Now if you just run this part, then all of them will be employee 3 because SQL doesn't know which record you want to change, so it changes everything, all the records that are there. Now we added a condition where the name is Linus. So in our case we have only one guy with the name Linus, so it will update only this record, only this particular record. Now obviously if we had like 10 Linuses, then all the 10 will be updated, but for now we'll just keep it simple. So where the name is Linus. So if I run it, you can see it's just showing 1 row affected. That means only 1 row was changed. Earlier you can see 3 rows were affected. Now 3 rows means all these 3 rows because we didn't specify the condition. and now it is showing just one row affected. So hopefully it should update only the Linus part. So if we just run it again, you can see only this one was changed to employee 3, not the rest of them, because this is the only record with the name Linus in it. So you could do like that. And then obviously let's change Syed Basim to employee 1. So to employee 1, where name is equal to Syed Basim, you can do like that, absolutely. So where the name is Syed Basim. Now let's do it like a little bit different. So you could do like where the job position is website developer. So just for practicing we can do like that, where job position is equal to website developer. Now obviously if we had like 10 website developers in our shop, then all of those website developer will have employee 1, employee ID 1. Now obviously that's not practical, but in our case we have just one website developer, so this condition should not cause a problem. So if I just run it and refresh the table, you can see we got 1 for only Syed Basim and 3 only for Linus. Earlier for 2 all of them got employee ID 2. Now you can see Linus salary is 3,200. That's the actual salary for a manager, but over here it is like 5,000. So again we need to change that. So let's change it. So you could do like set the salary, it's salary, and salary to 3,200 if I'm right. It's 3,200. And then where the name is John Doe, like that. So John Doe, where the name is John Doe, his salary will be 3,200. So if I run this and refresh the table, you can see John Doe's salary is now 3,200. So we successfully updated only this row. Now if I didn't add this condition before, then obviously all of their salary will be 3,200. So even the website developer salary will be 3,200. Now let's say the shop decided to increase the salary of the manager. So now manager gets $500 more. So now again it's easy. You could do like set the salary to be like this. So you can do like this, set the salary to be salary plus 500. So you can absolutely do like that. So salary plus 500, and where the job position is equal to manager. So what it's going to do is it's going to select all of the records where the job position is equal to manager, and then increase the salary by 500. So let's run it and refresh the table. You can see now these both have $500 more as the salary. Before they had 3,200 and now they have 3,700. So that's $500 more. So all of the managers got $500 more in their salary. So that's also how you can do like that. Now if you want to select only one of them, so you have to actually select using the unique identifier, that is the employee ID. So in our case, in our shop database, all of their employee IDs should be unique. Now obviously before we had duplicate because we didn't add table constraints earlier, but imagine you had table constraints. So this employee ID will always be unique, right? So you can select using employee ID. So you can maybe change the joined at date to something else. So we have to not select by John Doe. That's not a good practice, because obviously we might have, let's say, 3 persons with the name John Doe. So John Doe, we cannot guarantee that the name of the employee will be unique. Some people can have similar names or the same name. So that's not a good selection. The best selection is the employee ID because it always stays unique. So you could select by employee ID. So let's go and change the salary, not the salary, the joined at date. So currently it's July 21, 2020. So I'll just change it to maybe 2018, and no, I'll just change it to some random date. So update the employees table and set the joined at. So joined at, and then to a random date, let's say maybe 2019 5/9, like that, where the employee ID is emp 00001. Are there 4 zeros? Yeah, 1 2 3 4. Yeah, okay, 4 zeros. And yeah, we have to change John Doe, not Syed Basim, so I'll make it employee 2. So like that. So now it's going to change the joint at value to this one, only for the employee ID with this. So in our case, we have only one person with this employee ID. So the majority of the time you have to select it using the ID or the unique identifier. Now maybe in some case you want to update it to multiple items, like earlier we updated to all the managers, so you could select like that. But in our case, we have to select only this record over here, so only this record. So you have to select it using employee ID, not their name or job position. So instead of employee ID, if I selected like their employee ID, sorry, their job position should be manager, then obviously all of the managers will change their joint at date, now including Linus. But in our case, we want to change only this particular record, so you can select using the employee ID. So if I run it, okay, I got an error. Check your SQL. No, maybe I think if I run it again, yeah, okay, so sometimes it happens. So I just run it again and the error is gone. So if I refresh the table, you can see the join date was changed. So that's about updating the records. Now obviously, if you want, you can update the multiple records at once. So maybe I want to change the about as well as salary, because why not? Okay, so I'll just update the salary as well as about at the same time for John Doe or this employee ID. So set about I want, maybe this is about John Doe, maybe like that, something, why not? And then maybe his salary also I'm going to increase by 100, let's say. So we can do like salary plus 100. So if I run it, about as well as salary should be changed for employee ID number 2. In our case, number 2 is John Doe. So John Doe's about as well as salary both should be updated at the same time. So if I run this and refresh the table, you can see this is about John Doe. Now about was changed, and also his salary is now $100 more because we updated the salary as well as about at the same time. So that's how you can update values of a particular record. Now obviously, the where line is not necessary that it should be a simple where condition like this. You can have like very complex one. Maybe you can add and, or all those things we learned about where earlier in the read query section. So all of those you can apply over here and filter data accordingly, and then set the field value only for the filtered data what you filtered using the where. We learned how you can update data, and now it's time to delete some data. So deleting data is actually way more simpler. So just let me get rid of this and just see the employee table data. So you can see we have 3 employees, and for some reason maybe you want to just get rid of the last one, that is Linus. So for deleting it, it's very simple. First you have to select the database. Obviously SQL needs to know in which database you're working, and then just do like delete from and then the name of your table. So in our case it's employees, and then you have to specify the condition. Now obviously, if you don't specify the condition, all of the data will be deleted. So obviously you never want like that. You never want to delete all of the data in a table. So for deleting only specific ones, you can perform a condition. So maybe you can do a condition like where employee ID is equal to this one. I think they have 4 zeros, so like that. Yeah, so you can do a condition like this. So only employee 3 will be deleted. So if I run that file, only the employee 3 record will be deleted. So if I do like where job position is equal to managers, then all the managers will be removed. So John Doe as well as Linus, both of them will be removed. Both of them will be deleted from the table because both of them have manager in the job position. So now in our case we just put like where employee ID is 0003, so only the third one will be deleted. So if I run this and refresh the table, you can see the last one was deleted. So that's how you can delete a particular record or a bunch of records based on the condition. We learned how you can update records and how you can delete them. Now let's learn how you can update the whole table itself, maybe adding a new column or changing the column name or changing the table name or deleting the table itself. So all of those things we'll learn now. So all about tables. So first let's learn how you can change the table to add a new column. So if we go to our employees table, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 columns. Maybe you want to add another column, maybe let's say the gender, male or female. So you can do like that. So now obviously you don't have to create a new table for that. You can just change the table to add a new column to it. So it's pretty easy. First of all, you have to select which database. So use, then shop, and then you have to use the alter command. So you're going to tell SQL to change something, to alter something. So alter table and then the name of your table, that is in our case it's employees, and then you have to say add. So add is going to add a new column for us. So how you can add a new column? So it's pretty similar to creating a new column. It's like creating a new table. So after add, you have to just specify the name of the column you want. So in our case it's gender, and then you can specify another things like the data types, constraints, and all that. So it's pretty similar to creating a new table, like earlier we learned how you can create a new table. So gender, and then the data type. In our case I want it to be an enum data type. Now if you don't remember, enum means you can specify a set of values. So a particular column should only have a set of values or else it won't be inserted. So it should be one of the specified values. So in our case, a gender should always be a male or a female. So nothing else apart from male and female. So that's about enum. So you can obviously add more constraints, like maybe you can do a I don't know, maybe you can just add a unique constraint. No, not unique constraint. No, obviously you can add another constraints. Maybe you want the default value to be male or something. So you can just add constraints. Now I'm going to leave it like this for now. Okay, maybe I'll just add a new constraint. So just to show you, so I'll just add a constraint, maybe not null. No, it's like this. Yeah, not null. So we're going to say SQL that create a new, first alter the table employees. So you're going to say SQL that change the table. Now what are you going to do with the table? You're going to add a new column called gender, and its data type is an enum, so it should only be either male or female, nothing else. And then you're going to add a new constraint, maybe a not null constraint. Now obviously constraints are optional, but data type is compulsory. So I'm going to just add a not null constraint. So every employee should have a gender, so it should not be null. So let's first see our old table, that is just employee ID, name, job position, salary, joint at, and about, and it should get a new column called gender. So just run it and refresh our table. Okay, after refreshing the table you cannot see gender. Now why is that so? Because we didn't specify gender for Syed Basim and John Doe yet, because we created these records earlier. So earlier we didn't have the gender table, so while creating these new two records we didn't specify their gender before because we didn't have the column itself. So now it's a good time to practice our updating skills. So let me just comment this out so it won't be executed. And now for updating, you have the update command. So update, so you can do like update, then the name of the table, that is employees, and then their gender should be male. Now in our case both are male, So we want to update both of them to be male. So I'm not going to add a condition, because obviously if I don't need to specify the condition, because if I don't specify the condition, all of the records will have the value. So in our case all of them are male for now, so all of them will be male, so no need of condition. So now there is an error because it's update employees, not just update like that, it's update employees and set gender. So I just forgot about set. So let me just run it and refresh. Okay, for some reason we didn't get the gender table, so it's a good time to introduce you to a new command, a new query, that is describe. So describe and then the name of your table. So it's going to say what all are there in the table. So we got an error, yeah, okay, about this one. So I'm just going to select this whole thing and run it, so only this line will be executed. So if I run, you can see we got our table, like all the details about our table, like employee ID and its data type, that is this one, and it can be null because I didn't specify that not null constraint earlier while creating this table. And yeah, we have the gender table, and we also have male or female enum, that's the correct data type, and not null. So then why is it not being entered? Okay, so this one was run successfully, that means our new table was created, but for some reason this thing didn't run. So I'll just going to select this and run it again, maybe it should update it. So let me just refresh. Oh, okay, so we got the gender table, the gender column, sorry. So yeah, so we got the gender column. Now both of them are male. Obviously if you want to create a new one, you can create it with anything like that. So this is how you can add a new column. We learned how you can add a new column to the table using the alter command. So we were telling SQL that we have to alter the table or make changes to the table, and then we specified what change we're making. So first we told alter, and then alter table, and then the name of the table, that is employees, and then we told what change we are making. So in our previous case we were adding a new column, so we told we are making a change to add a new column. So we told add and then the column name. For example, we added gender last time, and then we have to always specify the data type also along by adding a new column. So we told add gender and then the data type, that was an enum. So we added like that. So now we learned how you can add a new table. Now we learned how you can modify a table, modify a column. So if you go there and you can see our gender table, so if we just take a look at our table, that is, you can do like describe, and then you can either type describe or just desk. Okay, so then the name of the table, that is employees. I'll just okay, so just run this command and you can see gender is an enum for male or female. But let's actually modify this table. So maybe you want to change its data type to something else, for example. So instead of an enum, maybe you just want it to be a varchar, for example. So you can absolutely do like that. So just say alter table employees, and then last time we wrote add. Now add meant to add a new column to the table, but now we are modifying something. So modify. So first we told we are altering the table called employees. So then first we told we are altering the table, and then we told what changes or what alter we are doing. So last time we were adding a new column, but now we are modifying something. So we are modifying the data type of the gender. So modify gender, then the name of the column, and then what change you're making. So just modify gender and then just specify the new data type you want. So before the gender data type was an enum, either a male or a female. Now we'll just put a varchar, for example. So it's easy, just put varchar and maybe just 20 characters. So if I run this and go to the table and refresh, obviously nothing will happen, But if we describe the table, and just run this line, you can see the gender is now varchar of 20 characters. Before we had gender of an enum, either a male or a female, but now it's a varchar of 20 characters. So we changed the data type of a column. So now the gender column is a varchar, not an enum. So that's how you can change the data type of a column. Now you can also change the constraint of a column. Now if you take a look at our table again, like all the detail of our columns, you can see our employee ID has a type of car 11, and then it's showing null yes. Now that means that employee ID can be null, but actually employee ID cannot be null, but we didn't specify to SQL that it cannot be null. So for that we already learned a constraint called not null. I hope you remember that. So it's easy. Just say you are altering the table called employees, and then you're modifying the employee ID column. And then what you're doing, first of all, you have to specify its data type. Now even though we are not changing the data type, we still have to provide it. So our data type was car 11. And then what constraint we have to add? We have to add a not null constraint. So it's pretty easy like that. So if I just run this whole thing, and you can see it changed. So if you refresh the table, nothing will happen. But if you take a look at our table, like we take a look at our detail of the table, you can see now null is no. So now it cannot be null because of the not null constraint. So that's how you can add a constraint to the table. So that's pretty simple. We learned how you can add a new column to the table. We learned how you can change the data type of the column in a table. Now we learned how you can add different constraints, or how you can modify different constraints of the column of the table. So that's pretty simple. Now one more cool thing you can do is you can change the order of the columns. So you can see first one we have employee ID, then we have name, job position, salary, joined at, about, and gender. And for some reason, if you want gender after the name column, so gender, you can see it's in the last because we added gender in the last, so it was added to the last position. Now for example, you want gender after the name column. So for that, for changing the column, it's pretty simple. Again, you have to specify you're modifying something, and then the name of the column, that is gender in our case, gender. And for some reason, you have to specify its data type again. We know we are not modifying the data type or adding a constraint, something like that, to the gender column, but whenever we're modifying something, we have to specify its data type. So we have to specify varchar of 20, even though we are not modifying it anything, you can see is the same thing, varchar of 20, but we have to specify its data type. If you specify some other data type, then that data type will change. So if I specify like maybe car of 20, just car of 20, then it's going to change the table definition, the column definition. It's going to change that column data type. So just be careful. So in our case, I just want it as varchar of 20 characters. And then we have to change its order. For changing its order, it's pretty simple. You have to specify after command. So after, and then after which column. So in our case, we want it after the name column. So after the name column, we want the gender column. So modify the gender column after name. As simple as that. So if I run this line and just rerun the whole thing again, you can see now gender is added after name. Before gender was in the last, now gender is after name, because we told modify the gender column, then we have to specify its data type, and then after name, after which column you want. Now if you want this gender column to be in the first column, as the first column, so you cannot just say after, like after what. So you can just do like this, first, and then just run it, and if you refresh, you can see now gender is the first column. So that's how you can change the order of the column. And now we learned how you can rename column names. For renaming column names, you have another thing. So it's not modify this time, it's change. Now change and modify look pretty similar. I mean, their meanings are the same thing, but change, yeah, you can use for changing the name of the column, and modify for anything else, like maybe changing the order, changing the data type, adding a constraint or something like that. And change for just renaming. So change, maybe you want job, instead of job position like this, so instead of job position in this way, maybe you want it like in this way with the underscore, so job position. If you want like that, that means you're changing the name of the column. So for changing the name of the column, first type change. Now first we're specifying that alter the table employees, and then we're saying what change you're going to make. So this case we're going to rename it, so you have to use the change clause, and then change job position, the current name, so it's like this. And then for some reason you have to specify its data type. So in our case the data type was an enum, a website developer, then we had a manager, and then we had a cashier. So this is the data type we have, and then you have to specify the new name for it. So I'm going to just rename it job, then underscore position, like that. So if I just run this line, okay, we got an error. So if I run this again, okay, we got an error. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. The thing is, first you should not put the new name over here, you have to put it over here. So yeah, so what you're doing is change old column to the new column, and then its definition, I mean, you can like the data type of it. So old column name, then the new column name, and then the column's data type. In our case it's enum. So this is how you do it actually. So if I run this, data truncated at job position row 2. So at row 2, manager. Oh yeah, I wrote just manager over here because of the mistake I made. So if I run this again, yeah, we got no errors. And if we refresh this whole thing, you can see the job position name was renamed. Before it was job position without an underscore, and now it has an underscore. And now let's learn how you can delete a column. So for example, you just don't want this gender column. So for deleting a column, you have to just get rid of this whole line first. Okay, so again we are altering a table. That means we are making changes to the table. So first we specify alter table employees, and then what column changes you're going to do, like what changes you're going to do to the table. Now in this case we're going to delete some column. So in our case we're going to delete the gender column. Now if you remember, for deleting a database it is drop database. So in case I didn't teach you that in the previous lectures, for deleting a database you have drop database, and then shop. I think it's like that. So like this. So just remember that in SQL, deleting means dropping. Okay, so wherever you see drop, it means you're deleting something. So now if you have to delete this column, the gender column, we have to say drop the gender column. Okay, so you have to do like this. So alter the table employees, drop gender, and run this, and you can see drop gender successful. So if you refresh this whole thing, the gender column should not be there. So refresh, yeah, the gender column is gone. So that's how you can drop a column. Now if you want to drop a table, again it's pretty simple, but I just don't want to drop my employees and the pets table because it took a lot of time to create those tables. So I'm just going to create a new demo table. So use shop, then create table with one column, maybe the ID column, and then its data type, maybe the car of one character, for example. This is just a test database. And oh yeah, we have to specify the name of the table also. So maybe just example. So I'm going to run this table. So now this new table is created. So if I refresh, you should see the example table to be created. Now if I want to delete this table, I have to just type drop table, and then the name of the table, that is example. If I run this command, you can see drop table was successful. So you can see already the example table is gone. So if I refresh, you can see the example table is not there. So that was deleted. Now if I run this file again, you can see an error, that is unknown table shop.example, because we don't have a table called example in the shop database. So if you try to delete it, it will show an error because there is no such table in it. So like creating a database, we already told that create database if exists. So we're going to create a database only if it exists. The same thing for drop also. You can say drop table if exists. So it's only going to drop if the example table is existing in the shop database. So in our case, example table is not there. So if I run it, this line is not going to be run. You can see an error is there, but this case it looks like a warning symbol, not an error symbol. It's like yellow color. So there was no error in our code, but it's just like a warning symbol. So because table was not there, but there was no error because we told delete it only if it exists. Now it doesn't exist, so it's not going to be deleted, and hence there is no error.